All right, welcome to Phase Line Blue. I've got with me Jay Gaul, who I had the privilege of serving with in Afghanistan while we were stationed at Fort Campbell with the 101st Rakkasans. Jay, thanks for being on.
Oh, pleasure. Absolute pleasure to spend this time today.
Really, really glad to be working with you on some veteran efforts. And as just a way of kicking it off, what's cool to me is just how many different lines of work, how many different types of work, levels of seniority, et cetera, as we go forth from military service, where people end up. So if you would just share for a few minutes, what do you do currently?
Yeah, currently I'm in the software and technology space. I am a director of sales for a software company that automates a lot of processes within apparel and manufacturing. We also are involved in the RFID space, tracking objects, inventory, being able to recall items using RFID identification, both active and passive, do some ultra wideband stuff. So it's very dynamic. We do things across a lot of different verticals. So it's a very dynamic thing. I come from a custom software background as well, had some opportunity in the custom software space within sales. And so very tickled to be a part of what I do today, day to day.
You share with me in the past some of what the RFID does and like how you guys track. Can you give an example or two of just what is that for us, what's that look like?
Yeah. An easy use case would be we have a facility. Let's say that we bring in a truck, we buy trucks from Ford Motor Company, and then we outfit those trucks. So we can put a tag on those trucks, have readers across your facility, and as they go through the various works and process, we're painting it, we're putting the body on it, we're coating it, things like that. So moving objects, work in progress, machine shops. Anytime you take a raw piece of metal and move it down a process and have to locate it within that process, dwell time, so many different variables there. So really a digital transformation, and RFID is a part of that.
So is it like an Apple tag, but just on a more complex level?
Yeah,
Just
yeah, and for all those fellow veterans, just look at it as like your own little blue force tracker in the warehouse. We all lived the blue force tracker era of the United States military, watching those vehicles and assets move across the battlefield. Same kind of concept, but now we're just watching somebody's pineapples, perhaps pallets of pineapples moving about their facility. So it's very dynamic. It could be pineapples, it could be wrenches, it could be, you know,
that's cool. That's really cool. Take us back, if you would, to just like tell the story of Jay Gall in what
yeah,
shape or form, maybe 5-10 minutes,
sure.
as far as you want, but at least including how you got into the military in the first place and got interested.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in southeastern Ohio on the Ohio River, near Marietta, Ohio, and this is a valley of agriculture and manufacturing. And my thing was, I always wanted to go to college. My parents were always, hey, get an education. So back then it was like get an edge on life, right? Join the army. So I figured out I started school a little later in life. So like when I was a senior in high school, I would have been 19 when I graduated. And I got really restless in high school, and I figured out that I could join the Army Reserves between my junior and senior year of high school and go do my basic training between my junior and senior year of high school, join the reserves. So March 1st of 1995, I threw up my hand, took my first oath. And then that summer I went to Fort Jackson and started my journey in the Army Reserves. Subsequently had a year of high school to finish out, got selected for an in-service scholarship at a regional university to be a cadet, an ROTC cadet. And at that point, I can tell you, I really enjoyed what I did in the reserves, but I really wasn't ready for college. I was like, it was a great opportunity, but I just, at that point in my life, like I wasn't ready for all that responsibility. Didn't do very well academically, really focused on probably the wrong things. And a lot of times again, I don't think I was prepared for college. I don't think I was prepared intellectually, maturity wise. Like I just wasn't there. Muddled through 3 years of college and got to the place where the army was like, look, dude, you're in academic peril here. Commissioning is going to have to be put off. We've got a situation, scholarship and money and all that. They're like, you're going to need to pay back your scholarship. And I was like, I think I could do something else. So I'm like, how about you guys release me and I go do something else? So we parted ways and I got out of the commissioning program, of course, under somewhat okay terms, neutral terms at that point, enlisted and selected 11 series infantry and got station of choice, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And as a student of history, I really truly did know exactly where I wanted to go, Fort Campbell. I knew about the 3rd Brigade of the 101st and the deep history. And that's where I wanted to go. I figured Fort Campbell was close enough to home that I could still be connected to that support network and family. And 3rd Brigade of 101st Rockistans, that's where I was headed. So when I got there, I had already volunteered to go to that brigade and made sure that I could get there. So that's how I got to where this all started. And that unit specifically, we've got a rich history. And sometimes I laugh and say this kind of tongue in cheek. It's not necessarily a place where you excel. It's an environment in which you endure. And anytime I'm having a bad day today, I'm like, you could be running down A Shaw in MOP level 4 and singing cadence and holding your rifle above your head because that's what you do. And if you do anything less than that, you're just less than that. And it's what it was, right? And so you are that unit specifically, historically, we're pretty passionate about our mission. I guess it's a cryptic way to put it for all those people who are listening from the inside out.
Speaking speaking of the endurance part, you guys would do 25 milers on
You
occasion.
you do a 25 miler every quarter. So there'd be
Every quarter for a year.
there'd be 4 opportunities to complete a 25 miler, and you had to have a current within a 12-month period. So you had to have a 25 or law documented successfully completed within a 12-month look back. And that was at that time, that was the unit standard, period.
What was that like? What was walking 25 miles?
I'm blessed with height and cursed at the same time. I love the lower back problems that many of us combat veterans have, but you just grind it out. You learn mentally to think about a lot of different things. Obviously, you're focused on the mission and you want to survive, especially in a real world environment. When you're out walking around, OWA is what I used to call it. When you're out OWA, you got a mission and you got a pace, and you get to a level of fitness where walking. We talk about 12-mile road march. Okay, it's a significant event. You're definitely going to be combat. You need to be combat effective after 12 miles. 25 is a different story. I've seen some warriors roll in to the end of the 25, and it made a difference in their life.
Yeah.
It's no joke.
But how long did it take?
Oh, we would say, I guess I lose track of time. I know that we would start, well, many times we would start in the evening. So you would get to the battalion area, get there in the afternoon, like maybe 2, 3 o'clock, 15 minutes prior to 15 minutes prior to 30 minutes prior. You'd get there and get ready. And then usually step out like 1800, 1830, and it was all night long, all the next morning. And our unit always did a great job. We had the Warriors breakfast for those of us lucky enough to complete one of those events. And I have definitely completed one. I have not completed all for various reasons, but it's tough at the grind. Not easy.
Yeah. You may not remember, but well, let me ask you this. Was this a Rakkasan thing, or was this like, did all of the infantry brigades do it? Do you remember? Do you know?
I recall this specifically being a 3rd Brigade thing.
Okay.
I don't remember our other regiments,
So
battalions, brigades doing.
you might not recall this, but as important as the 25 miler is to the Rakkasans, the air assault badge is important to the 101st. So when I showed up as a lieutenant, the platoon was getting ready to step off on said 25 miler. And I remember waving goodbye as I was starting air assault school the next day, so could not go. And then 9/11 happened. So I never did a 25 miler with the Rakkasans.
Sometimes if you were called at that particular time, then you would have attempted, and then the result. You just weren't called at that time.
Wasn't called at that time. So this is, and then after that, obviously, war took.
Yeah. Then you get
For a hot minute.
You were marching just in just a different tune.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So what's one of the funniest things, because there's lots of these, but what's a funny thing that happened that you look back on and you just start splitting your sides when you think about your service time?
There's so many. There's so many. I think some of the funny things that you get to is just the level of predictability that you can get within an organization. I laugh about it, right? But we could get to a place where problem, solution, decision tree, what do you think is going to happen? And I can remember a particular time where I was hearing machine gun fire. And I said, man, we're gonna burn that barrel up. And the CO said, thank you. You're right. I didn't hear that. And just those funny things that happen. Who was on that gun? What's going on? They're mega aggressive and they're laying it, right? And so
Uh-huh.
just the level of predictability and then other things. You get to a place where maybe it's nighttime, maybe you're doing the whole nod thing that we all learn to love. And you see someone walking in and I know who that guy is. That's
Yeah.
And I know it is because he's got that little bit of a shrug to his
Uh-huh.
shoulder
Yeah.
and the canteen maybe a little bit here, a little bit there. And I know that's who it is. And that stuff's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very situational.
I don't think if you've not experienced that, I don't think you can appreciate what you just described. Like that ability to just know who it is, even with that, even if your nods are up and it's just the silhouette.
Right.
And
Right.
funny because I think about that now with like people that are close to me. If I'm out, let's say on a trip with the family or something, I can't even do that now, like with my own family members. But
Right.
to your point, if we're out, if we've been walking a minute, we've been in the unit, a unit for a while together. Oh yeah, I know who you are.
I think the other thing that's always been funny to me and maybe many others is that you get to a place where you begin to know people as you go up through the ranks. And it's a little bit more connected, I think, on the enlisted side because we're all closer together in a way. But you have these guys that you know them and you watch them go all the way through, right? And you have an inkling of what kind of leader they're going to be, right? Person X was in this position and these events happened. What would that person do?
Mhm.
Or how are they going to be when they give up the sham shield and they put 2 up or 3 up? What are they going to be like? And I think that was always funny.
Yeah.
That was always funny on a whole different, lots of different.
Did you nail it more often than not?
I felt like I did. Yeah. I felt that after a while, there was like some level of predictability. It's like, we're going to promote Specialist Smith to sergeant, or even the guys that went from the 6 to 7 move, right? Going from a squad leader to a platoon sergeant, I never had either. I was never a platoon sergeant, but never had that role as a platoon sergeant. But there were always those guys, right? They had that rocker. And then all of a sudden, man, boom, I'm a platoon sergeant now. Oh, no, actually, I'm acting first sergeant. And
Yeah.
it was just
Yeah.
always, that dynamic was always a little bit funny. And what you found out was the guys that were low key and got it done were low key and got it done. And it's just a style thing, different leadership styles and what happens when you become that new shiny penny.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Uh, so you did a couple deployments?
I did. We got it 3, but September 11th happened. And that night we left to a place that needed help. And we were there for a bit. And then we ended up stateside, but it was urgent and interesting.
Mm.
And then we came back and then subsequently went to Afghanistan right at the end of the year of that year. And I remember hitting Kandahar and they were like, don't get off the airfield. They were like mustering. And I'm like, look, are we like, what's going on? Are we thinking incoming? What are we getting shot at right now? I can't hear anything. But we've just gone through the Himalayas and now landed. And what is going on? And then from there, it was just, you just go from one adventure to the next adventure to the next adventure. And that's really, I look at it in little truncations of the adventures that we all participated in. And sometimes we volunteered for the adventures. Sometimes we were hand selected for those adventures. Sometimes we really didn't want to go on the specific adventure. You have an obligation and you're in a total institution and you're going to fulfill your obligation in one way or another. So you might as well make it.
What was Kandahar Airfield like when you got there?
Dark and the smell. I didn't find it like overly offensive, but it was definitely different. And
What was the
then
smell? How would you describe the smell?
it just smelled lunar. I know that may sound great. Like, how does he know what the moon smells like? I don't. But it just felt like it was not Earth.
Mm.
It felt like it was that we had just traveled to a whole other moon, whatever. Clearly, it was a con, but it was just a different dimension. That's
Mm.
exactly how I would categorize it. And it really did feel like we dropped down into a whole different dimension.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to remember the smells that comprise that very distinct, and I probably haven't thought about that for a while. Very distinct odor, and all the objectively, all I know that it went into it besides the local normal stuff was jet fuel
Oh
exhaust
yeah.
and jet,
Yeah.
but then also benzene, the local what was it like propane tanks that was who knows what was in those, what type of gas, and then feces being burned,
Burned. Yeah. Oh yeah. The
right?
whole gas, the whole jet fuel,
Yes.
JPH
Yes.
and feces smell.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Which
then
is, some field sanitation, very
well,
vitally important
sanitation is important.
to soldier health and welfare. So we're going to burn it. What we're doing, burning it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So smells. What do it look like? And part of my reason for asking is that as folks are watching this, you got there fairly early on in the U.S. presence in Kandahar. To January of '02 would look vastly different from even
Oh
'03
yeah.
and
Oh yeah. So
so on.
this was post Texas 17, but not far off. And we had a Marine Expeditionary Unit that was holding down the fort that were fantastic, professional, fighting men, absolutely amazing human beings, but they had been there far longer than their resources were prepared to have them there. They had not intended on having Thanksgiving there, let alone Christmas. It
Mhm.
was now the new year, and they needed replenishment, refit. The warriors is who I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And then multinational too, who was there from out and about.
So our friends to the north, the Canadian Army, Princess Patricia's Light Infantry, and I think maybe even I think they might have been an element of mechanized. I'm not quite sure how all that worked out, but anyway, they were there and they were our Canadian cohort.
And then how many other, if you had to stick your thumb on it, about how many other nations represented?
People rotated in and out. I know that the Romanians were there at one point. The Norwegians were there. They had a mine flail that was specifically helpful clearing minefields because that was a minefield. No pun intended. And there was a lot going on there. I know the Australians were there. I think Germans had been there. I know the British Royal Marines. I did some little bit of here and there. In addition to everybody we have alphabet, whatever, the various special operation elements, everybody, a lot of different uniforms, Chow Hall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never, it was like the Forrest Gump box of chocolate, but you go to Chow Hall in the uniform, like you never really know what you're going to get. What? And then it's like, who's the dude with the 45 that's all tricked out? What?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
With the baseball cap and who is that? Yeah, that, yeah, what are we doing here? Right.
What for those that haven't seen it in action, what the heck does a flail do?
So a mine flail is essentially it's something that you are going to put on the front of an armored vehicle, but particularly a tank. So you could have the main gun of a tank and you could turn the main gun, but this flail is it's turning and it's on a shaft. You got chains and they're rotating and they're essentially flailing the surface of the earth to get the mine to detonate, which will then it'll take the chain officially, take the chain, and then it goes boom, and then so all you gotta do is clear enough avenue for armor, and it's game on. I don't know if
So,
any of our folks are listening to that, but all we need is a little avenue of approach, and it's gonna get ugly.
and what were they using it for at Kandahar?
So they were clearing there were elements of the airfield where we needed to get back and forth, and they were clearing that. And I think the outer perimeter, and there was an unfortunate incident with Camel that occurred. We all had this Camel that we came to know and love. And his name's Camel. And one day we were all going to the chow hall, and all of a sudden, boom, just big mushroom cloud. And it was like, whoa, what was that? And it turned out
It was camel.
it was Camel.
It was camel.
I mean,
No. Yeah, that's crazy. Did you ever get to interact with anybody that drove said flail?
no, I saw him.
Yeah.
I saw him, and I'm sure we rubbed some elbows, but I never remember, maybe, I don't really recall ever having a conversation, but,
Because that's got
you
to
know, oh, I can tell you right now, they look to be the best at it. And I know that we have adopted, I know the Israelis have some equipment, whatever. I know that we have a mine plow back then that we attached to the Abrams, but again, not a mechanized guy, so I'm out of my element.
A lot of mines at Kandahar.
Bunch. Oh
Where
yeah.
where did they all come from?
Our friends in Russia. The majority of those mines are Russian, and they still go boom, unfortunately. And they try to paint them, paint rocks, red rocks, white rocks. But there are still children today that are walking to school that are going through active minefields that are somewhat marked, and it's a sad thing that is happening right now as this video is being recorded. I'm certain of
Hmm, that's crazy.
it. It is.
Yeah. I've heard that they seeded those mines in part to keep their own people in. I don't know if that's true or not, but I've heard that.
Yeah, because it was like, okay, you got the perimeter, and then you got this middle ground, and the whole middle ground, it's all loaded. Some of it marked, some of it not marked. I know that me and my friend Ben, we had a couple incidents where we were definitely in a place that we didn't want to be in. Yeah. So that was, yeah, everybody's seen that.
Was it on Gator?
Yeah, it was in a gator. So it reminded me of a couple MASH episodes where they get lost in a minefield, except it wasn't MASH. It was actually Afghanistan. And it was me and my
It was real. It was real.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was real. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you took part in Operation Anaconda?
I did. I was up in the mountains, Pacha province. It was definitely, things got very real very quickly. And I think we were up there 11 days. A lot of press about what occurred. I had my small part in it. It was definitely, it's just one of those you get in the chute, right? Bull riders. I don't know if anybody's going to watch the video of the bull rider, but like that 8 seconds can feel like 80 minutes.
Mm.
And that's the kind of environment you get into where time, it's like a wormhole. And success, no, you just want to survive. So that's what success looks like in those types of environments, is mission accomplishment with the survival element. And that condition and that particular engagement, Operation Anaconda, weather was not a friend. We had elevation, we had snow, we had change in temperature, we had a lot going on. We had intelligence that indicated that there were fewer people there than there were actually there. And that happened. You don't know everything. And that's something about conflict. I think when you're on the ground and you're in conflict, and this relates to both Afghanistan and my experience at the beginning of the Iraq War, second Iraq War, you're there and you're committed to the mission, but you don't at the time have the historical and political realities of what's going on. You don't, as an American soldier, you have more than our enemies, but you don't have all the historical and political realities at
Yeah.
your fingertips.
Yeah.
So you only know what you know. So you're trying to figure out, like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? You have to understand that at that time, you have the mission and you've got your guys and you've got mission accomplishment and survival and the next mission. But you're playing with 33 cards in a 52 card deck.
Yeah.
That's just what it becomes. So to me, that was the challenge. We didn't know everything, and you couldn't know everything.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You had a pretty near death experience in that time period. Are you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's out there, right? And in Billings Gazette, USA Today, there was media there embedded with us. They captured the whole discussion. It became a story about mortar ping pong.
Mhm.
And leading up to that mortar ping pong, we were in an area where we had initially came in and we had to get out of there. It was like, I just felt like my vision of it now, my recollection of it now is like, we were in this like tube of death.
Mm.
And I can remember coming to you and being like, holy cow, we're in the tube of death. We're going to die. Like, we have got to get out of where we are. I was freaked out. I don't know if it was partly I had awareness that we were in the tube of death, or if I was just freaked out, or if it was a combination of whatever. But I do know we got out of the tube of death.
Yeah.
And I had to take a couple trips. I don't know what it was. We had gear, we had whatever. I was carrying a radio at the time, and I was supporting our company commander. And so I'm making trip 2, I think it was. And during the minute I'm making trip 2, a mortar round came in on me, and it came on me extremely close, very close.
So how close?
25, 30 meters, very close. And I was like, whoa. So that was an event that occurred during that period of time. We hadn't been on the ground very long. We'd been on the ground a matter of hours when that We'd had some other engagement prior to that, but so moving the command post essentially to a better position where we had better eyes on, I think was really the
Yeah.
impetus behind the whole thing.
Yeah.
So they knew where we were. They could see us. They were hit. And one guy he did get hit.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, he's alive and well. So we should all be grateful for that.
Yeah.
He was out there for a bit, and that was tough. It was tough on him for sure. But he was not in our company. He was in another company. And I remember him getting his Purple Heart actually for that many months later. It was one of those overlooked things, and it was like long overdue. And I was stuck around to see that happen. So
Nice.
he did earn that award, and he earned it. People say, I always say, oh, that's not what I want. I didn't want the first. That sounds like an award for whatever. No, like legitimately, that specific instance, he earned it. And then we had weather. We couldn't get him out. It was tough. Yeah. It was a tough time up in the hill.
Yeah. Yeah. Am I remember right? Did you have a round land next to you, like right next to you and not explode?
Yeah. I had another one come in, and what had happened was they hadn't set the fuse properly. And so instead of airburst, if it had been airburst, I'd have done. But something happened. I don't know. And then what's weird about that is you'd think, okay, the statistical probability of that event happening, what is that? I don't know what it is, but I can tell you this. I had the same event happen to me in Iraq in a little town called El Baj. Night was falling, and I was taking a little round. I was actually going to the latrine, as we called it. And when I was on my way to the latrine, RPG, he does his thing. RPG around comes, hits our compound, and pulled the pin.
Wow.
So I got another one.
Yeah.
I got another one, and I'll protect the innocent. We were in southern Baghdad. We're pulling up, getting out of the truck. All of a sudden, oh, someone's 203 goes off as we're getting out of the back of the truck.
Gosh.
Time stands still. We're all on the back of this truck, and we're watching this 203 around just go like this on the hardball. Never went off. And the guys that have listened to this, they know who they are. Like, I know who my platoon sergeant was when that all happened. I can remember the person that did what they did, and it was an accident. I don't excuse it. But we could have been done. We could have been done right there. And so the 203 did what it needed to do. It didn't go far enough to rotate the arm.
Sure. Yeah.
Sunk and then just like a little pop on top of the table. So I've had, I guess I say that just to validate, like I've had some crazy near misses and hits too. I've never been Purple Hearted, but I've definitely been on top of a building that got struck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll jump up and get you. Gotta keep that Kevlar on.
Yeah. Yeah.
All times.
Always.
If you're issued one, and if you're not, you don't need to hear that from me. You know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. So all that experience, talk to me a little bit about after war, after getting out.
Yeah.
And did you have any challenges?
Look, you do your enlistment or your obligation, and then once that's done, you clear post, and then you're completely normal. And you just go back into a civilian society as employee number whatever, and it's a seamless transition. And there's no one day you're wearing a pickle suit, and the next getting all your ribbons all squared away, and the next day you're on Wall Street. The money just starts flowing.
Yeah.
They told me back in '95, they said, "Be all you can be, get an edge on life." So I'm like, all right, I've got this edge on life now, and I've got the experience of being a combat veteran. So it's like, all right, what are we going to do? What I did, I struggled for a little while. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I don't know. So I faltered a little bit, and I didn't. And the other thing I experienced, because I had some time in service, when I went to the civilian world, I hadn't completed my degree. I mean, we started with that whole ROTC situation. I hadn't fulfilled my obligation, scholarship, whatever. I didn't complete my degree. I enlisted. So now I find myself with, I think I was 11 years of service for pay, something like that, 10 years of service for pay. And I've got no degree, which is not a problem, but I didn't have a trade either. I wasn't skilled. I wasn't a machinist. I couldn't just go find a trade. So I had some adjustment issues. And you say, what do? You go back to what you think is right. And so what I went back to was, okay, I got to finish school. I'm just going to figure it out. And this was before we had like the post 9/11 GI Bill. So it wasn't like, I wasn't getting a lot of money to go to school. I was taking out student loans, and I was living on like the original OG GI Bill. And I knocked my degree out. I found that I was a lot more focused on my education at the point. Said if I got off of the mountain, I would try to do better.
Mhm.
And that was one piece of it that I held up. I told Tim Odit, who was also a plank folder with our organization,
Yeah.
basically told him he's another phase line blue guy. I said, look, if we get out of here, we got to finish our degrees. We're like blood brothers to that promise where, right? So I'm like, I'm going to figure that out. So I did. I got that done. And then a lady that I was involved with, she had had a lead on her job. Somebody was looking for somebody to jump in and get in the oil business and she needed to make money. I always talk about when we have our adjustment issues, our transition, money is the thing, right? The bank doesn't care.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm on terminal leave and I haven't started my new job. Like the bank doesn't. There's a lot of programs out there and I encourage everyone to take advantage of them. But at the end of the day, they're going to look for money. I needed to make money. So I got in the oil business and the oil business was quick cash, a land grab, buying. I was essentially buying oil and gas in place. George W. Bush was the landman, right? There's a lot of historic landmen out there. Aubrey McClendon, God rest his soul, who's no longer with us. He was a quintessential landman going out and buying. So I love the thrill of the chase, but that also became an extension of being on TDY all the time.
Yeah.
I was living out of a suitcase and it was big cities and big money.
Yep.
And I ended up, man, I mean, it was not a healthy lifestyle. Alcohol, right? Probably consumed. I say probably consumed way too much alcohol for
Yeah.
anybody to have a level of health, right? Not moderation there. I had 10 years of hustling out on the road and had developed my business, started working from home. And once I started working from home, I got a little bit better balance. But then at that point, my career became okay, what can I do in this economy, this giant macro economy? What can I do where I'm primarily working from home? And
Yeah.
I saw the volatility in the oil business, and I still dabble in the oil business, but I saw the volatility in the oil business, and I'm like, dude, I have to find something different. So I always adopted technology in my military career. I was always very close to the radio and all the cryptological devices and the TACSAT stuff, and GPS stuff back then. So I already had a working knowledge of all that stuff, a little bit of software knowledge from high school, and then word processing and staying current. And I could type. So I really got intrigued with let's get out of oil
Mm.
because I saw what happened in my region, coal, and I'm like, I don't want to be the last of the oil guys. So I got involved in technology and took a job, and I had to pay to work. I took a job with a small software shop where we built everything by scratch and really slugged it out and learned a lot and reinvented myself and learned a lot about digital transformation. And I think, how does that relate to like my service? If you put yourself in an environment where you have to adapt or you have to change, then you got to change. So that's what I did. And I haven't regretted that. I enjoy what I do in technology and solving people's problems. And I know it's like, oh God, he's a sales guy. But I do it from a consultative approach. And there's a lot of times where I say, hey, I don't think this is what you guys need to do. It's helping people solve their problems and growing businesses. That's really, in a nutshell, what I enjoy doing. My military career didn't go the way, I guess, I had originally planned it to go. And people have asked me before, they're like, well, wait a minute, you were in a commissioning program, you were enlisted, then you were in a commissioning program, then you went back on the enlisted side. Why'd you do that? Reason one, I didn't want to pay back money for my scholarship. Duh. The other one was I didn't want to go to work in a chemical plant. I didn't want to be a school teacher. I was not good at calculus, so I was not going to be an engineer or a geologist. And I was running. People, we used to joke and laugh. What do you know? Your new guy comes to the unit. What are you running for? Tell us about your life back in the world. What are you running from, man? Everybody's running from something. And so my thing was I was running from I didn't know. I was running away as fast as I could from I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you volunteer enough. I came from a very patriotic family, grandfather World War II veteran. I wanted to serve.
Yeah.
And I didn't enjoy what the reserves. I enjoyed the training and sort of the immersion, but I didn't enjoy the job.
Yeah.
But I will say I never intended on staying in that MOS. There was always probably a plan in the back of my mind, probably to go full time actually. That's another thing. Like the reserves 1 week in a month, it was great. But I was like, what do I do the rest of the time? So I was really yearning for that total institution at that time.
Yeah.
I wanted the security blanket of Uncle Sam in the United States Army. My first sergeant and my company commander would tuck me in at night, along with my platoon sergeant and squad leader, and make sure that I had met all the necessary proficiencies in the preceding degree to perform the next day to a high level. So I needed that babysitter. I needed a
Yeah.
freaking babysitter, James.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what I said. It's to come to it. I said, if I do it my way, I'm probably going to get massive trouble. So let me go into this and plug into this and stay within the boundaries and the guide rails of that, and I'll be okay.
Yeah. 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 Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And what do I like? What do I miss? Miss coming back from a mission where we've done what we needed to do, and just that kind of circle of nodding and like, hey, you know what? We set out to do this task. We performed at a high standard. We accomplished the mission. I miss
Yeah.
that job satisfaction and camaraderie that it's associated with.
Yeah.
And there's a bigger piece to it. I realized, look, man, I was going to say I'm getting the gray hair factor, but I'm losing it. I don't want these young guys and gals to go through some of the things that the collective that we've endured, we've seen. We're going to be called, like you said, I never completed this. You were never asked to do that, right? Our country puts us in situations, we put ourselves in situations, and we're going to be called to perform at some point or another, or maybe not. There are those guys and gals that did their 20 years and for whatever reason, much like that road marked only an extended period of time. There are plenty of people who did 20 years in the United States Army, United States Navy, United States Air Force, and never heard a shot or witnessed a shot fired in anger. And that service was valuable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Our service was valuable, but it was our experience was remarkably different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That's good.
yeah, makes it different.
We're doing this interview in the month of May, so in a couple
Yeah.
weeks, Memorial Day. What's Memorial Day like for you?
So Memorial Day can be a difficult time. Can be a difficult time for me. It can be a difficult time for a lot of veterans because sometimes you can feel like there's a little bit of disconnect between, you know, our society, right, at large and the veteran community and how we. And so I look at it as it's a time for us to reflect on the people that impacted our service, the mission, and also gave absolutely everything. They gave their earthly life um, to the mission, and that's a sacrifice that it really truly I don't know because I'm still here, but for you to understand what that feels like and what that impact has for those family members, I think you can only empathize in your mind. You can't actually feel the way these Gold Star families feel. It's not real, much like our combat experience. Wait a minute, are they shooting at me? It's not real until it's really real. And so I just want to say their loss is very real to them. And we can only empathize to a level that we're capable of. And we never know generationally how these things are going to go and who's going to be called, who's going to volunteer, who's going to be called, and who's going to pay that price. But the price is high. And so it is a somber time for me, but it's also a time for me to think about what would the people that touched us and the people that gave that sacrifice, what would they want us to do? What would they want you to do on that specific day? And I think we do it in memorial of them. And it could have been you, and it could have been me, and it could have been some other members of our organization. It could have very well had easily been you or I. So it is very leveling. I think it is like, ooh, that's my thought on it. I really practice a lot of gratitude. I try to stay in a positive space because it is very easy for us, given our life experience, to get in that negative space.
Sure.
Try to stay in that positive space and take it as it comes. But what can we do? So I'm going to do some cemetery stuff locally, make sure we get some flags out and do a little bit of that. I started doing that a few years ago. I feel good about it. It's a good thing. And I always bump into another stone that I was unaware of. I always learn something
Mm.
new. Live in a really super rural area. We've got all kinds of stuff. So reefs and all that's all going on. But yeah, it's a somber occasion. It's very real. But I try to make it or positively somber. If that sounds like double
Yeah.
coffee, probably don't.
Yeah, I hear. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Jay, thanks for taking some time out of your day.
Yeah,
I'm really
likewise.
excited. Good.
Hope that someone can take this back and forth between you and I and some of these stories and experiences and apply them to their daily lives and pull something out of it. We want to help and we're aware of what needs to be done. We've got a lot of work.
No, that's awesome. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate you.
All right. Take care.